It started with just a slight dizziness, then a wave of confusion. She brushed it off. Just fatigue, she thought. But in reality, it was something far more dangerous, a mini-stroke. The scariest part? Most women don't even realize it's happening. Every second counts, and ignoring the signs could lead to a major stroke. Today, I'll reveal 6 warning signs you should never ignore, because recognizing them early can save a life. Stay with me to the end, because the last symptom might surprise you. Welcome to Healthy Aging Advice for Elderly. I'm John, and if you or a loved one want to stay informed, healthy and safe, you're in the right place. Every week, we bring you expert-backed advice to help seniors live longer, healthier lives. So, before we dive in, take a moment to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the information in this video could save a life. Today, we're talking about mini-strokes, also known as TIAs, Transient Ischemic Attacks. They're often dismissed as fatigue or just getting older, but make no mistake, these are warning shots of a potential major stroke. The symptoms can be subtle, but recognizing them early can mean the difference between a full recovery and a life-threatening emergency. That's why it's critical to know what to look for. I'll walk you through 6 warning signs you should never ignore. Some may be obvious, but others might surprise you. And don't skip ahead, because the last symptom could be the most unexpected one. Let's get started. But before we do, tell me in the comments, have you or someone you know ever experienced sudden dizziness or confusion? Your story could help others recognize the signs. Sign number 1, sudden confusion or trouble speaking. Imagine this, you're in the middle of a conversation trying to say something simple, but the words just won't come out right. You know what you want to say, but your mouth doesn't cooperate. Or maybe someone asks you a basic question, something you should know instantly, but for a few moments your mind goes completely blank. Scary, right? This happened to my friend's mother. She was talking to her daughter on the phone when suddenly she started mixing up her words. It lasted only a few minutes, and she laughed it off, blaming it on fatigue. But later, doctors told her it was actually a mini-stroke warning. If she had ignored it, a full-blown stroke could have followed. Sudden confusion, trouble speaking, or slurred speech are some of the most overlooked warning signs of a mini-stroke. Many seniors mistake it for just being tired or having a senior moment. But in reality, it's a sign that the brain isn't getting enough blood. Even if the symptoms disappear quickly, it's crucial to seek medical help immediately. Here's a simple test. If you ever notice someone struggling to find words, slurring their speech, or saying things that don't make sense, ask them to repeat a simple sentence like, "The sky is blue." If they can't say it clearly, act fast. It could be a mini-stroke. Mini-strokes don't always come with pain, which is why they're easy to ignore. But ignoring them can lead to something far worse. A major stroke that causes permanent brain damage. Time is everything when it comes to strokes, so if you or a loved one ever experiences sudden confusion or trouble speaking, don't wait. Get medical help immediately. Have you or someone you love ever experienced sudden confusion, even for just a moment? It's more common than people think. Type yes or no in the comments. Your experience could help someone else recognize the warning signs before it's too late. Sign number 2, sudden vision changes. Imagine waking up one morning and suddenly everything looks blurry. You rub your eyes, blink a few times, but it doesn't go away. Maybe you see double, or even worse, you lose vision in one eye completely. It's terrifying, right? Many people assume it's just their eyesight getting worse with age, but sudden vision changes can be a warning sign of a mini-stroke. A mini-stroke, or TIA, Transient Ischemic Attack, happens when blood flow to the brain is briefly blocked. If the blockage affects the part of the brain responsible for vision, you may experience blurry vision, double vision, or even temporary blindness in one eye. It can last for a few minutes or even seconds, then go back to normal, making it easy to ignore. But that's a mistake. I once heard a story about a woman named Margaret, a 72-year-old grandmother. One afternoon, she was reading a book when the words suddenly became blurry. She assumed she just needed new reading glasses. A few days later, she had a full-blown stroke. Doctors later told her that her blurry vision was the first warning sign, a mini-stroke that should have been a wake-up call. The key difference between normal vision changes and a mini-stroke is how suddenly it happens. Normal aging eyesight gets worse over time. But if your vision changes out of nowhere, even for just a few minutes, that's a red flag. Here's a simple way to test your vision. Cover one eye at a time. Do you notice a difference? Do words or objects look distorted? Do you see double? If so, don't wait. Seek medical attention immediately. A mini-stroke is often a warning shot before a major stroke, which can cause permanent vision loss or even blindness. The good news? If caught early, doctors can take steps to prevent a full stroke from happening. That's why knowing the signs and taking action could save your life. Have you ever had unexpected vision problems, even if just for a few minutes? Many people ignore this symptom without realizing what it could mean. Let us know in the comments. Your experience could help someone recognize the warning signs before it's too late. Sign number 3, weakness or numbness on one side of the body. Picture this. You're going about your day, maybe making a cup of tea or reaching for your phone, when suddenly your arm feels heavy. It's weak, almost like it's not yours. Or maybe you try to take a step, but your leg feels numb and unsteady. The sensation lasts only a few minutes, then disappears. You shrug it off, thinking maybe you just slept wrong or sat in one position too long. But in reality, this could be a mini-stroke warning. A mini-stroke, or TIA, Transient Ischemic Attack, happens when blood flow to the brain is temporarily blocked. When this affects the part of the brain that controls movement, it can cause weakness, numbness, or tingling, usually on just one side of the body. The face, arm, or leg might feel limp, or you might struggle to grip objects. It can last a few seconds or a few minutes, then vanish, making it easy to ignore. But ignoring it is a mistake, because this is often the body's way of warning you that a full-blown stroke could be coming. Let me share a real-life story. A woman named Linda, 68 years old, was cooking dinner when her left arm suddenly felt weak. She couldn't lift the spoon she was holding. After a minute, the feeling returned to normal, so she didn't think much of it. 2 weeks later, she had a major stroke that left her unable to use that arm permanently. Doctors told her that if she had sought help when she first felt the weakness, they could have taken steps to prevent the full stroke. That's why even a brief episode of weakness or numbness should never be ignored. Here's a simple way to check. If you ever feel sudden weakness, try lifting both arms. If one drifts downward or feels heavy, that's a warning sign. Another test? Try smiling in a mirror. If one side of your face droops, that could indicate a mini stroke. Time is everything when it comes to strokes. The sooner you get help, the higher the chances of preventing permanent damage. If you or a loved one ever feels sudden weakness or numbness, even if it goes away, don't wait. Seek medical attention immediately. Have you ever felt weakness or numbness in your arm, leg or face, even for just a few minutes? What did you do? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your experience could help someone recognize the signs before it's too late. Sign number 4, dizziness or loss of balance. One morning, a woman I know was walking to the kitchen when she suddenly lost her balance and tripped. She laughed it off, thinking she was just clumsy. But later that week, she felt dizzy again. This time, the room spun, and she had to grab onto the counter to steady herself. A few days later, she saw a doctor, and what she learned shocked her. It wasn't just a balance issue. She had experienced a mini stroke. Dizziness, sudden trouble walking, or feeling like the room is spinning are not just normal aging problems. They can be warning signs that your brain isn't getting enough blood. Mini strokes, or TIAs, Transient Ischemic Attacks, can affect the parts of the brain that control balance and coordination. When that happens, you might suddenly feel unsteady, lightheaded, or even like you're about to faint. Many elderly women ignore these symptoms, thinking it's just dehydration or fatigue. And while that can sometimes be the case, the key difference is how suddenly it happens. If you feel fine 1 second and then, out of nowhere, you're dizzy or struggling to stay balanced, that's a red flag. I want you to imagine this. You're walking through your home and suddenly you feel like the floor is tilting beneath you. You reach for something to hold on to, hoping it'll pass. And it does, after a few minutes. But should you ignore it? Absolutely not. Doctors say that dizziness caused by a mini stroke can come and go quickly, making it easy to dismiss. But here's the danger. Many people who experienced dizziness before a stroke had a warning episode days or even weeks before the major event. That means catching it early could give you time to prevent something much worse. So what should you do? If you ever feel sudden dizziness or a loss of balance, try this quick test. Stand still, close your eyes, and slowly lift one foot off the ground. If you immediately feel like you're falling over or your legs feel weak, don't ignore it. Get checked out as soon as possible. Remember, mini strokes are often the body's way of warning you before a full-blown stroke. Paying attention to these small signs can literally save your life. Do you ever experience dizziness or sudden trouble walking? It's more common than people realize. Let's talk about it in the comments. Your story could help others recognize the warning signs before it's too late. Sign number 5, a severe unexplained headache. We all get headaches from time to time, maybe from stress, dehydration, or just not getting enough sleep. But what if a headache suddenly feels different? What if it comes out of nowhere, feels more intense than usual, or is paired with other strange symptoms? This could be your body warning you about something far more serious, a mini stroke. Many people think that strokes only cause weakness or slurred speech, but in reality, a sudden, unusual headache can be an early sign, especially for women. Mini strokes, or TIAs, Transient Ischemic Attacks, happen when blood flow to the brain is briefly blocked. If this affects the blood vessels in your head, it can trigger an intense headache, one that's different from what you're used to. Let me share a real story. A woman named Carol, 70 years old, was at home watching TV when she suddenly felt a sharp pain on one side of her head. It wasn't like her usual headaches. It came on fast and felt almost electric. She took some painkillers and tried to sleep it off. A week later, she had a full-blown stroke. Doctors later told her that her headache was an early warning sign. If she had sought help sooner, she might have been able to prevent the stroke entirely. So, how do you know if a headache could be a mini-stroke? Here are 3 things to watch for. 1, sudden onset. If a headache hits you out of nowhere, especially if you don't usually get them, take it seriously. 2, unusual pain. If it feels different than your normal headaches, sharper, more intense, or in a new location, it could be a red flag. 3, other symptoms. If your headache is paired with dizziness, blurred vision, numbness, or confusion, don't ignore it. Get medical help immediately. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that a mini-stroke will always feel dramatic. But the truth is, these episodes can be silent killers, showing up as something as simple as a headache. That's why it's always better to be safe than sorry. If you ever feel a sudden, unexplained headache, especially one that comes with other symptoms, don't wait. Seek medical attention. It could be your body's way of warning you before something worse happens. Have you ever had a sudden, unusual headache that made you worried? Drop a yes if you have, or no if you haven't. Your story might help someone recognize the signs before it's too late. Sign number 6, brief loss of consciousness or fainting. Imagine sitting in your chair, feeling perfectly fine, when suddenly, everything goes black. A few seconds later, you wake up on the floor, confused but otherwise okay. You brush it off. Maybe you just stood up too fast, or maybe you skipped a meal. But what if I told you this could be a warning sign of a mini-stroke? Brief loss of consciousness or fainting is something many women ignore. But here's what most don't realize. When the brain isn't getting enough oxygen-rich blood, even for a few seconds, it can cause a temporary blackout. And one of the most common causes? A mini-stroke, or TIA, Transient Ischemic Attack. Mini-strokes happen when a small blood clot briefly blocks circulation to the brain. If the blockage is in a part of the brain that controls alertness, it can cause sudden fainting or a brief loss of consciousness. The worst part? Since you wake up feeling normal again, it's easy to ignore the warning. Let me share a true story. A woman named Diane, 74, was out shopping with her daughter when she suddenly felt lightheaded. Before she could react, she blacked out for a few seconds. When she came to, she insisted she was fine. Maybe she was just dehydrated. A week later, she suffered a severe stroke that left her partially paralyzed. Doctors later confirmed that her fainting episode was an early warning sign of the stroke. Had she gone to the hospital right away, she might have been able to prevent it. Now, not every fainting spell means a stroke is coming. But here's how you can tell if it's a serious warning sign. 1, did it happen suddenly without warning? Mini-stroke-related fainting often comes out of nowhere, without dizziness or lightheadedness beforehand. 2, was it brief but you felt confused after? If you black out even for a few seconds and feel disoriented when you wake up, that's a red flag. 3, were there other symptoms? If fainting was accompanied by confusion, vision problems, or weakness on one side of the body, seek medical attention immediately. Mini-strokes are often precursors to a major stroke, and the sooner you catch them, the better your chances of preventing life-altering damage. That's why it's always safer to check with a doctor than to assume everything is fine. If you or a loved one ever experiences a sudden fainting spell, even if you wake up feeling okay, don't ignore it. It could be your body's way of sending you a warning. Has this ever happened to you or someone you love? A fainting spell that seemed harmless, but later turned out to be something serious. Let's start a conversation in the comments. Your experience could help others recognize the signs before it's too late. Now that you know the 6 warning signs of a mini-stroke, I have to ask, which one surprised you the most? Was it the sudden headache, the brief loss of consciousness, or maybe the dizziness that so many people mistake for simple aging? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. And if you found this information helpful, hit that like button. It helps more people see this potentially life-saving advice. But here's the most important part. What can you do to lower your stroke risk? The good news is that your diet plays a huge role. In one of my upcoming videos, I'll be revealing the top 5 foods that can help prevent strokes in seniors. You won't want to miss it. So make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you're the first to know when it's live. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.